Hey everyone, I like to use a lot of drip irrigation in the garden, primarily to top off all the earth boxes, but then I put a lot of things in pots, whether it's seeding new things, transplants, starting things. But the drip irrigation seems to be the best route for all of that, just because I can control how much water it's getting every day. It's not just spraying all over the place, and I can control it item by item how much it's getting. So I wanted to just do a quick video on how to set up a basic drip irrigation system, the components you're going to need, and specifically how I set mine up. So the first thing, and probably the most important part of the whole system, is everything gets attached to a hose timer. So this is what's going to turn on every morning, run for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. I'll run it longer for the earth boxes, and I've tried all different timers, and what I've come down to is absolutely the best ones I've had luck with are the Orbit brand, and I like to use this 3 output timer. This way I can have like one output for the earth boxes, which will run for say every day for 15 minutes in the morning. I might have an outlet running twice a day. Things like when I'm starting like lemongrass, they need a lot more water. They dry out quicker because the smaller pots. And then I might have one run every like second or third day for larger pots, things like trees and things like that I don't want to get too much water into. I've had good luck with Orbit. The batteries seem to last the longest. I do change the batteries every year, but that should say something that they actually get over a year out of a set of batteries, and it's just like a 2 AA batteries. I don't have any in this one. Never store the devices with batteries in them. Just to show you though, I have used other brands. I've got this Craftsman, I've got this Ray Padula, I don't know how you pronounce it. They work okay, but they chew through batteries. Especially the Craftsman one. This one goes through batteries like every 3 months. And the first time it happened, I didn't notice, and I actually lost some plants due to that. So you want a good timer. Orbit also makes, this is just a mechanical, like 0 to 2 hour timer. So if there's something you just want to water once in a while, these are nice just to keep on your spigots. And you can run a hose to something, just crank it on for like 30 minutes, and then it'll shut off automatically. So I'll put a link to the Orbit timers that I use. So that's for me, it's the far best ones I've had experience with. Now, when you're assembling a drip irrigation system, you can buy those pre-made kits. Personally, I don't like those. You get a lot of components you're not going to use, so you're paying for stuff you're not going to use, and you might not get everything you need. So it's better to plan ahead. So the main components of the drip irrigation, number one is you're going to have some sort of pressure regulator. So you're going to drop what's typically say 40 to 60 psi down to, I think it's around 10 or 15. So you'll need a good pressure regulator, and this attaches right to a hose outlet. So you can attach it right to your timer, or more typically you're going to have a hose from the timer close to the garden, and then the pressure regulator is going to be your first thing. So I'm not too picky about the one you get, so whatever brand drip pieces you're getting, if you're getting them at Home Depot or Lowe's, just get a pressure regulator first thing. The second thing is going to be the hose adapter for the 1/2 inch pipe. So again, you only need one of these per output, per hose output, and that's going to attach directly to the pressure regulator. Okay, and you want to make sure that there's going to be a screen or some sort of filter in there. If in a more elaborate system, you can go to a bigger external filter. Some of them have a flush feature where you can just open a small petcock on the bottom and flush the filter out. But for most purposes, just the little screen filter in these is fine. So what's going to happen is you're going to use a 1/2 inch hose. So you're going to pick up a length of this. This is very inexpensive. So this is going to be your primary run. So let's say you had a 50-foot row of earth boxes, which would be a pretty long row, but you would run this down the row and then tap off this for each emitter, drip emitter. But very simply, this is just going to press right into the hose adapter. You press it in, and you see it's in there really nice and tight. So simple as that. Then you're going to cap off this end, and the simplest one is just this little pinch piece here. You put that on there, you double this over, and boom, you're done. So Matt, this can be any length of course, but I'm just showing a short length for this purpose. This is the simplest form of the setting up the 1/2-inch pipe. Very inexpensive. These work very well. They do make pieces that you can put on the end and put a screw cap on it. That way if you want to extend it, you can just take that cap off and keep it going. However, if you go this route, you can get line extenders. You could cut that off, slip this on there, and continue going. So it doesn't really limit you. You can always cut this off. You can put a T on there. They make T's for the 1/2-inch. You got elbows. So you can get real elaborate, but here it is in its simplest forms. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to add the emitters, or the emitter runs, and that's the 1/4-inch pipe. To do that, you're going to need to punch a hole into the 1/2-inch. And I like to get a decent tool. If you're going to do a lot of this, get something decent. Don't use the little manual punch tools. So with this, you just, wherever you're going to put the emitter, you just put it like that, punch it down. It makes a nice little hole in there. Next, you're going to add a barb. And this is just to go from the 1/2-inch to the 1/4-inch pipe. So I've got a length of the 1/4-inch. I like to buy the stuff that's really, really flexible. It's a lot easier to work with, easier to route around things. If you go to a couple different stores, you'll see some of them are more rigid with thinner walls. I find that a little harder to work with. But very simply, you're just going to put the barb into here. And then you're just going to punch it right into that hole you made. Real easy to do, and works very well. I generally haven't had any leakage problems. Sometimes I'll remove one of these and put a T in its place. So let me get a T for an example. So you can get barbs that are T's. That way you can run 2 of them off here. What I prefer to do is put the T a little bit down and then run 2 more pieces of 1/4-inch off that. I like to just have single barbs coming off the 1/2-inch. They just seem to be the most useful. Last thing, take your emitter, your dripper, and just push it right onto the end of that 1/4-inch hose. And if you have trouble pushing these on, just take a lighter and heat that up real quick. You don't want to get it hot, just put it in there for like maybe a second, and these will slip on a whole lot easier. So that's it. So to design your system, again, you need a pressure regulator, you need a hose adapter, you need some way to clamp off the end of the 1/2-inch. So there's your 3 parts. You're gonna need your 1/2-inch pipe. It's very inexpensive. So figure out how long your run is for that. You're gonna need your 1/4-inch for, depending on how long each run is, you can kind of add that up. If you're gonna drop it into the earth box fillers, I like to make sure there's enough to actually drop deep down into that fill tube. So figure out how much 1/4-inch pipe you need, and then for each connection you're going to need a barb, and then your emitters. And your emitters, they come in 1/2 gallon, 1 gallon, 2 gallon, and 5 gallon per hour. 1 gallon is like a baseline, so I'll start with that, and then let's just say you're putting those 1 gallon into your earth boxes. Now you're going to have some earth boxes that are going to need more water if you have like tomatoes or peppers in there. So on those you might put a 2 gallon or maybe even a 5 gallon. As an alternative, you can have the system run twice a day. So have it fill up in the morning and then maybe fill up again maybe around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's it. That's how you put together a system. The nice thing about this though is this is very reusable. So to disassemble the system, obviously this piece is real easy. Now, if it gets too crimped and you can't slide that off anymore, you can just cut it, but since I just did that, this comes off easy. These barbs, just pull them back out. So the pipe came off that. It can be a little rough on your fingers. You can use some needle nose pliers or whatever. Just be careful not to crush the barb itself. So I've got the barb back. Now, if the 1/4-inch is stuck on these, it's pretty hard to pull off. So to remove this, what I do is just nip off a little piece there. Now you don't want to cut into the dripper. I'm just taking a little bit of the 1/4-inch off here. go a little deeper. You're basically just really weakening it right at that point. And once you do that, usually it comes off pretty easy. So you can see how I kind of cut that out and it comes right back out. So completely reusable. Take the pressure regulator off. Now these pieces are a little trickier. You're not going to be able to pull this out. Just can't do it. So what I do is I cut it nice and close. And I like to use these kind of cutters where they're kind of rounded. They tend not to pinch the tube. In fact, when you're cutting a piece of tubing like this, what I'll do is I'll put them on there and just kind of spin it around a little bit while giving it a little bit of pressure. And it just kind of falls through. So the pipe is not crushed at all. Makes it a lot easier to put the connections on. Anyways, back to this. Now, since this is a hose connector, this is actually going to be a little easier. You can pull the filter out. And what I do is just take a screwdriver and I push down on that pipe. Just try to collapse it down a little bit. Now you don't want to be shoving it up through there and damaging the connection in there, but just push it down a little bit. Then you can use your needle nose to push it, continue pushing. But the thing about the hose connector part is you can just push this through. That just popped right through. It came right through because that's open. So pretty easy to fix that, get that back, pop the filter back in, ready to go. Might want to run your finger right along in there, just make sure it feels smooth, make sure it didn't get damaged. So we're good there. Now, if you're doing like a elbow, it's going to be a little more challenging. So again, I'm gonna cut this nice and close. Take the screwdriver again, just a fairly small, like a number 1, I guess it is, Phillips here. And again, you're just gonna, I don't know if you can really see, but I just pushed that down until that 1/2-inch pipe is like a U shape. Just collapse it down. And I tend to push the 1/2-inch pipe really far up in here. It makes it a little harder as well. Now that that's in a U shape, you can take these needle nose, kind of pinch that U, and you're just collapsing it down. Pulls it right out, see? So let me hold this up real quick. So what I did is I basically dropped it. You know, internally I collapsed it down, and then when I squeezed it, just made this a lot smaller so it came out. And that way you can recover these pieces. And again, I like to just run my finger in there, make sure it didn't get damaged, because you don't want to put a system together later and end up with some leaks. But as long as that feels good, you should have a pretty leak-free system. So that's it. It's pretty easy to set up a drip system. It's pretty easy to recover the components and reuse them. I tend to not reuse the 1/2-inch pipe. What happens is you end up with holes punched all along it, and it's just too hard to try to align that with your next gardening or watering project. The smaller tubing, as long as it's over like a foot, maybe 18 inches, I'll go ahead and save them. And then I've grouped them into 3 different sizes. So I've got like 0 to 2 foot, 2 to 5 foot, and then anything over 5 foot. So I just keep them grouped so when I'm building a new system together, I could pretty easily grab the sizes that I need, reuse them. Over time, I've managed to collect actually a couple hundred pieces because I use this stuff everywhere. So anyways, that's it. Hope that was helpful for someone. I really like using the drip irrigation. I think it's the best way to top off the earth boxes and get the water directly to the individual pots. So if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments. And thanks for watching.